This would also be unsafe. And that was there. No, I'm. Yes. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 4th meeting of the Village of New Paltz Planning Board. Tonight, some administration followed by our general public comment and 3 public hearings. Then we have some additional application reviews to finish up the meeting. So to start, were there any issues or corrections for the February 18th meeting minutes? No, in that case, could I get a motion to approve the February 18th meeting minutes?
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I was in contact with our village board liaison. He's not able to make it to the meeting tonight, but we had no updates. Were there any updates from our director of planning, zoning, code enforcement?
Just to say that all the links on the agenda for tonight are now linking to the Mutica Lab. The ongoing applications that sort of started previously are still in the Google Drive if you care to go there, but I've managed to, all the ongoing applications have gotten all the files moved over. And that's it. And interestingly enough, the town, I just noticed on their website today that they've gone live with theirs with previous applications. I don't know if they're using it yet, but because they have also transitioned to.
Great. And did you have any updates from the town planning?
I looked ahead at their agenda for next week. They had 2 subdivision applications and a concept discussion for a new application. That didn't really go into detail as to what it is. That was it.
Okay, great, thank you. Were there any updates from the environmental policy board?
I did not attend the environmental policy board if they met, but I attended the environmental task force on the SUNY New Paltz campus. And they are talking about having an actual farm on campus. They have a sort of a mini farm now. It's like a little micro farm, we call it, but we're talking about getting a larger space and actually being able to grow food to fight food insecurity on campus. And there was also someone there from the campus food pantry who was talking about extending that as well.
Cool. Okay. So moving on, is there anyone here that would like to make a general public comment?
There's nobody on the list. And I don't know if there's anybody online or 2 people online, and actually 1 is an applicant, so I'm not sure about the other person.
Okay, if there are no general public comments, we can move on to our first application hearing. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing for PB 2501?
So
Second, all in favor? Aye. Mike, is there anyone signed up for 25?
there is no one signed up.
Is there anyone online that would like to make a public comment regarding 30 and 32 Cooper Street? Okay, and actually, I'd like to get a motion to close the public hearing for 30 and 32 Cooper Street.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I get a motion to open the public hearing for PB 2505, 11 Water Street.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. There is no one signed up.
Okay,
So I do have one person here who just came in the waiting room.
okay, is there anyone online that would like to make a public comment regarding 11 Water Street? All right, in that case, could I get the motion to close public hearing for PD 2505? So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And could I get a motion to open the public hearing for PD 2407, 147, 149, and 181 North Chestnut Street? So moved. All in favor? Aye.
We have two people signed up to speak.
Great.
The first person, Linda Schwartz.
Can we go together?
Sure.
Thank you. Hi.
It's Linda and Neil.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to some of the concerns that we have. We're the homeowners that are going to be directly across the street from this building.
We're at 152.
Yeah. So, we have some concerns for the new department, apartments, and some of the things that I wanted to talk about were. I know that there was a discussion that they didn't feel that there was gonna be an increase in property taxes, or that possibly, you know, the school rooms can handle increased volume for the students that would be coming in. So this is not the only apartment building that's being built on the street. We have two others that are also in the process of being built. And that is also gonna increase the school needs. And, you know, there's no, that, yeah, the classroom size is gonna handle it, but, you know, we're looking at coming out of COVID, and I don't know what the teacher ratio is. So if we have an increase in students and the teacher ratio is increased, that's an increased taxes. And they also, as you know, just voted for a proposal to have part of the upgrade done for the school system, and it's gonna increase our taxes for the cost of that, which is probably gonna be a bond. So as we look at the increase on the pressure for the infrastructure, is any of these new building people coming in, these contractors helping out with any of the increases, these possible costs? So that's my first question. And I don't know if I should stop, and let anybody answer, or go through a list. I'm not sure how.
So this is just you would be
Just
relaying
talking?
your,
Okay,
concerns to us.
there was water issues in the past, so I know that was discussed at one of the meetings that we had reviewed that was on Zoom. So as we increase towards all these apartments and everything else in the area, we're also concerned about, you know, we know that when we need to have access to the water, that New York is too nice to us, so where is that gonna come from? Another thing that I wanted to talk about was the reduce to the speed. So that toll corridor, they could slide on the road. It's 40 in front of our house, we know that they go 50. And now, if you take a look at our driveway from where the driveway is coming out on the apartment building and also Sunset Ridge, it's 150 feet. So you're gonna have people coming in and out of our driveway. You have the apartment building, and then you also have where the schools now. There's no proposal for a light. It can happen that the speed will be reduced, but it didn't happen with the address. And we were at that meeting. So here we are now with the new construction, and still the speed limit is being presented to DOT, but how can that move forward? Because going through that section at 50 miles an hour with 3 different entrances and exits, not counting the other areas, I think is just gonna be a disaster. We already know that there was a school bus overturned and somebody came down the road and hit the school bus. So, you know, we want to be safe, driving on the road.
You can see, because we sit in our house, they're coming from the north, like from Kingston, down towards town. And they're going about 50, 55 until they see the 30 sign on the regular, and then you see the brake lights go on.
Yeah.
All the time, all the time.
Yeah, now Kingston just had their speed reduced to 25 miles an hour, right on 32, before you go into Kingston. So I'm hoping that that can get approved because I think it would make a big difference on the road, for everything.
Especially with this project, it's not for more pedestrians and bicycles and also.
Yeah. So the traffic study that was done in 2024 was for about 700 cars on the road in an hour. I know that I got stuck behind a school bus going home about maybe a week ago, and there was about 20 cars backed up. So we got now 3 apartment buildings coming in, and we have school buses going there. Are they gonna pick the kids up on Route 32? Are they gonna go into the apartment complex itself? Where are those buses gonna be? So you have buses that come down by my market. I saw them come out today. You're gonna have them coming out by Sunset Ridge, and now you're gonna have 3 bus stops on Main Road. How is that gonna back everything up? Because I know from Stewart to the main light in town, it can get backed up all the way to that light. So that is a concern because we have a lot of traffic going. I think a lot of people use this for the cut through to go to Kingston. There's new hotel going into town. There's Zero Place, Agway being built. We have a lot of people using the car wash. The proposed building across from us, the sewer truck rate, the smoke stop. I mean, there's just a lot going on in this little tiny section of town. So again, if you take a look at our property as you're facing out, there's our property, and I know you can't see this from over there. And then there's a guardrail, and there's also a telephone pole. So I'm thinking that the next meeting that they're having here is to remove the guardrail and possibly have that exit coming out by the telephone pole, which is almost, again, that's in that 150-foot section. You really have to take a look at.
This would be like I think it's the north driveway of the new development, which is right about, it looks like it's maybe 30 feet just north of our driveway and maybe 100 feet just south of Sunset Ridge.
Yeah,
There's a telephone pole there. Yeah, we're just kind of wondering exactly what's going to come out and how things are converged there.
yeah,
Because like at 9:30 in the morning, all the school buses are going in and out to design. Elementary school is all coming out at that time, and then again around 4 o'clock. It's really busy.
you know, what will be the view from our home? So right now we look out, you know, past the house, but we can see the hills. So when we were reviewing the plans, it's talking about a lot of landfill. So I think that they have to fill it help some grade above the
I wasn't,
water line.
I was a little confused because it said, the building said they were 38 feet. To the top of the little fence they have on top. But then it said that the water table is only 3 feet in some spots, so they're gonna have to bring in a lot of fill to raise the site. So I'm just wondering like how high this thing's gonna be. Is it
Yeah.
gonna be 40 feet, 45 feet?
Yeah.
And how much fill do we talk about? We're gonna lose our entire view either way.
Yeah. And also the view from the apartments to us is like, we're gonna have like 45 apartments with 2nd-story windows, and I'm very open. I mean, we've had a lot of windows in the front, brings in a lot of light. So, we are losing a lot of privacy in our home. And, you know, that is a concern for us because we feel like, you know, we've been here for a long time. Our attraction to our house was the open space that we found. We don't know what the lights are gonna be. We don't know what the glare is gonna be. You know, there's no, when they showed a picture of this whole project, they had our whole lawn or our whole side of the road filled with a bunch of trees. That looked great, but it's not the case. So, you know, we would really like to have a hedge or something put up in the front, maybe some, you know, fat elder trees or something that could be done. I don't know if that's something that could be accommodated so that we have at least a little bit of something. So when we sit out on our patio, you know, we wouldn't feel like we're being kind of stared at. You know, so we're really not asking for much. We know that the area is growing, but we do have a lot of concerns. And, you know, when everybody leaves and when all the construction's done, we've got to live with it. The town's got to live with it. The community has to live with it. We know that there was somebody run over, or I don't know, by a truck over by the main road, by the bridge. about 4 or 5 years ago. There was somebody that was killed just recently
Yeah.
over by SUNY. I mean, we don't want to see anybody get hurt on the roads. We really need to slow it down. We need to slow down the traffic. We need to make sure that people are safe. When we first moved in, a lot of bicycles on the road. I know we had brought this in. We had brought this in when Agway was being built, that, there was a lot of people who would bike on our road. I'm glad to see there's gonna be sidewalks, if there's gonna be an accommodation for that, but it's not gonna stop people from being on our side of the road to go over. I right now walk from my house to my market and I try to go into the ditch because people just don't watch. With the sidewalk across the street, I'll be able to go and go across, but again, these are the concerns that we have. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be discussing this application again later in the meeting, so if you want to stick around, some of these concerns will get addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else here tonight who'd like to make a comment on?
No one else signed up. There are a number of people online, so I don't know if any of them want to speak.
Okay. Is there anyone online here to make a public comment tonight? Well, before we,
And we did receive one written comment. I put it in your packs.
right, okay,
Yeah, it's the one late at public hearing. Yep.
yeah. And so could you just explain how the public comment works with, getting Clinton County and other considerations?
Yeah, we don't have the response back from Ulster County Planning Board. And also because this is a subdivision, you need to have the hearing take place after a secret determination has been made. So I'm advising that you hold the hearing open to the next meeting and we'll continue it then.
Sounds good. In that case, I get a motion to adjourn the hearing until our next meeting on the
March 18th.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay,
Sorry, Rachel, was that you? Second?
Yeah.
Thank you. I was looking down. Thank you.
so moving on to our application reviews, could we have PB 2505 11 Water Street up first? Okay. So we got back info from the HPC as well. Like, could you just remind me what they said again?
Yeah, I apologize. I forgot to print that out.
No
One
problem.
moment.
The copy in there too.
They basically expressed they had no concerns on the change that was being proposed.
Great.
But let me find the file, and I think it was a one sentence issue.
If I may, thank you for the ease and precision with which the building was taken down. I drove by it a few times, saw it was coming down and everything was very well executed.
Thank you, yeah, we're eyes on the prize. And Paul Calucci was very, very great to deal with, so super proud. You're welcome, thank you. Okay, I have the memo here and.
Okay, thank you, I just got it too, so.
Yeah, as it says, they say it's a positive change and this memo confirms there's no DRB, HPC review. No additional review needed. And the amendment has our support. Okay, so. Other,
This application also had to be referred to the county, which will be meeting tomorrow night. County Planning Board. But given that the change is lowering the lighting levels, I'm fairly confident that they will be supportive and in favor of it. We'll have the answer back before our next meeting.
right.
Apply for some kind of pilot,
We did.
can you tell them something about it?
I don't think that's relevant to this amendment. Thank you.
But I am on site every day, so you feel free to stop by and we can talk about
Were there any other questions from the board about the changes here? This site plan amendment? Nope. Well, in that case, I think we are ready to authorize the preparation of a resolution of approval for our next meeting, and when we get the county comments back, then we'll be ready to act on that. So could I get a motion authorizing our attorney to draft resolution of approval? So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. And.
Thank you.
For you, man.
Okay. Thanks again.
Yeah. Next, we have PD 2407, 147, 149. Oh, sorry, no, reading the wrong agenda. Yes, 501, 501, 332 First Street. Hello. Okay, are there any updates to the plan since the last time?
So we sent an updated site plan from the original. And then we also handed off the updated survey to the property. Which was a requirement and it was in on time ahead of.
Right.
It had to be in before the 26th.
That's the subdivision plot, is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we have.
This one is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, David, you didn't provide a paper copy of the updated site, plan, did you?
Yes.
You did.
What was the date of the update?
Sure.
June 4, 2025. The updated site, but it was very minor, the update, the building moved a foot or two, close to the road, but to make a little more room in the back, the pool, the golf set, but nothing significant change the house. Trying to get it right, before we're done here, so there's no amendments. Back to back.
Understood.
And Mike, I don't think the updated site plan is in the system, right?
I do see one called site plan 250204.
Yeah, that's the update.
Well, that is the, okay.
And can you just give us an update on what's going on at the ZBA?
Yes, so we're meeting next week. They did say at the last meeting last month that they're drafting a resolution of approval or vote on. So it's not certainly determined that they'll be passing it, but I believe they're voting on a resolution that's, the 5 feet that we requested for a variance. There's neighbor support for the, change around the variance. I guess we'll know more next week.
Okay, so most likely we'll have the decision at the next meeting, even if we don't have a final written.
Yes, and otherwise it should be not.
You actually will have final written, because they closed the public hearing and they reviewed it at the last meeting. So
Oh,
they authorized the decision for the 11th.
okay,
So the voting yes or no will happen on the 11th.
right, okay. Well, I think in that case, we have. Were there any other questions from the board?
You say you have the support of your neighbors, whose you will be directly impacted by the extra 5 feet.
Yes.
I'm here,
Uh,
I'm the only one.
Yeah, that's there's comments in minutes, Rachel, and then plus there were some written comments that are in the file.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, if there's nothing else, then I think we can authorize the resolution approval, so. I get the motion authorizing our attorney to draft resolution of approval for March 18th.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you very much.
Dude, if you're able to, I've called Medmark and Neighbors a couple times and tried to get a digital copy of that subdivision map.
Thank you. I'll send that to you
Okay,
tomorrow.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, they delivered 3 hard copies, which is
Yes.
all we need, but I don't have the digital.
Got it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Back.
Um. I was wondering if maybe we could start by just quickly going through some of the public concerns that we were raised in the public hearing. We talked about a lot of those before, but I don't know if you want to just quickly address some of like traffic related stuff or related stuff. Yeah.
My name is Chairman, for the record, Taylor Palmer, with law firm of Page Baker on behalf of the applicant, and both the Burkhardt project architect, our engineer Mike Bodendorf with Hudson Land Design. And on the Zoom, we have Star Pitches from Hogs, Higher engineer. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, we did submit to you some supplemental materials that address some of the additional questions you all had on seeker review in part 2. So we've had a chance to look at that and have much of a comment there, but to more specifically address your comments and those I have presented during the public hearing. I'll first turn to start, just kind of give a full, a concise view start of the implementation of our traffic mitigation measures for this project and its consideration of all the projects that are coming on, including starting in the quarter. I see that we're potentially rebooting, so okay, good. So you're safe, Stark. So Stark, do you mind introducing yourself and just giving a background regarding the traffic mitigation measures we're employing here? And our shared access that we're proposing with our neighbors at Agway for the access to the site. And then I'll have Mr. Burke show the renderings of the project and how it interplays with the landscape and the neighboring area.
Yes. Good evening. Star Kip with LaBelle Associates, here with you virtually tonight. Uh, can you guys, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. You threw your hands up. I was like, oh no, maybe there's a technical problem. Um, so forgive me. I was about maybe 10 minutes late. I heard part of the public comments, but I'll address what I think Taylor laid out regarding our project and what we're doing on the traffic front as far as mitigation. Um, I think it's good to start at the beginning and talk about how the project originally actually had two access points dedicated to it along its frontage along North Chestnut. We have since consolidated it to one dedicated entrance on North Chestnut and then a shared access that is shared with the 145 North Chestnut project directly to the south. That was done proactively between both parties to address the concern really of the DOT to limit the amount of openings on their roadway. So there's that there's that I would call it mitigation measure, but really just optimize access plan. Also along the frontage, we have an increased shoulder width for potential bike lane. We also have parking along the frontage. And then we have, in addition to all of this, we have our traffic study that we prepared that looked at impacts from the project or any potential impacts from the project that considered all of the other developments in the New Paltz area, including some that to this point, we're not even sure if they're actually going to be pursued, but still to provide a conservative study, we included them. And that study has been reviewed diligently by the traffic or the village's traffic consultant DTS. And I believe it was in early February or late January, DTS provided a final letter stating there was no outstanding comments regarding that traffic study. In that study, we do reference some mitigation measures, but those measures are actually being or to be implemented by others. For instance, signal timing changes at North Chestnut and Main Street. And then there was the speed limit reduction, which is really being, I should say, is being championed by the village and by the town, but it was really kicked off by our project. The reason we can't carry it across the finish line is because it had to be done through a town and a village resolution. And to my understanding, that's been done. The DOT is reviewing it. And that's since I think the last meeting, not much has changed in the last 2 weeks as far as the DOT's review of that resolution for a speed limit reduction. I think that about covers it as far as our mitigation measures to our site, subject to our site. Taylor.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
It might be helpful to review for the public how that speed limit reduction works, like it starts, the 40 moves up and the 30 moves up, right?
Yeah, so
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say I can handle that if you want, because I submitted the resolution.
Go ahead. That makes more sense.
So, the village and the town jointly applied to the DOT. Villages are not able to lower speed limit on their own, only on any road, not even a local road. It must go through the DOT. The difference of what you referenced in the city, Kingston, cities are allowed to lower their speed limits on their own. Villages and towns are not, so we've applied jointly from the village and town, requesting that it essentially move 1,400 feet north, which would make the 30 zone start at the village line. And would make the 40 zone move 1,400 feet further north into the town. So you would have the same change from 55 to 40 to 30, but it would start earlier. So that request has been submitted to the DOT. It's totally in their hands, whether they approve it or not. They did initiate a discussion about it. And we had what was called a gateway meeting with the applicant in Ulster County. And the DOT seemed receptive to it, but the final outcome is in their hands at this point. But we hope that whether this project happens or not, that speed limit reduction will happen. So-
And, excuse me, Joe. I know we discussed this as a mitigation and I see that there was an addition of the mitigation of the timing of the traffic signal in the negative document. But I don't see the reduction in speed or the movement in the speed.
It is,
It is.
it's kind of hiding, it's on page 7, under. Section
Okay, it's just not specified, but
It says the village will support a request to reduce the speed limit.
Okay.
Is that close enough? Or we could.
it's general, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure it was right.
And if I may, this project too, I think just go off your comment, so one of the other components of the application that Mr. Hip just presented is the way that the bike lane is presented and the on-street parking and activating the streetscape. By preparing this, and making this an active project in furtherance of the agway and other redevelopment here, these projects themselves have a traffic calming or slowing mechanisms as well. Right now, you're just seeing a pass by property, there's not activated, it's a home, and that's it. So vehicles tend to, and we presented this at an earlier meeting, so for the benefit of the public, these buildings, the activation of the streetscapes and what Mr. Brook will review in just a minute, that whole process, that whole activation will also help, again, see as the driver sees activation, it oftentimes will result in slowing down, and that's not always a perfect science, but generally speaking, when there's a freeway or not visual activation, that can lead to drivers, moving at a greater speed. So I'm not a traffic consultant, I know that we've discussed that previously, so part of just the activation of it in total, and the reason why we presented the bike lane the way we have is effectively also traffic calming to an extent. So it is a combined approach to try and help mitigate and reduce the overall sort of speeds and operations in the area. Maybe that's a good segue then to you, David, maybe to walk through that pedestrian plaza and those bike improvements. So
Yeah,
maybe
maybe
first.
before on the topic of traffic, has there been any thought about how school buses will interact with the property? Are they going to go in and pick up children like in the parking lot or?
There's been no discussions with regarding school bus drop off or pickup. I'm sure that if the superintendent of the school district felt it was necessary to have school pickups and drop offs occur on site, that could be accommodated. But right now there's obviously no demand for it currently. We didn't identify school bus drop offs along the corridor, but the project itself would not impact school bus pickups and drop offs along the corridor. If anything, the improvements that are being done by these other projects to provide sidewalks along the corridor would do nothing but improve the ability for those activities to occur. It'd give a place for school age children and their parents to wait while the school bus is arriving or departing.
So that school districts are not allowed to go onto private property by law because of insurance liability. So I know it's having been on school board. So they must stop on a public roadway.
Okay. And we discussed, just for the benefit of the board, the public, we had discussed at that gateway meeting also the counties, the bus lines. So I think there was also whether there'd be a bus stop incorporated. I think they mentioned that there is, and maybe Stark knows better than I, that there are other stops in the general city.
Yeah, there's one not even maybe 1,300 feet to the south at Zero Place that serves four of the 11 routes for UCAT.
Can you just remind me again what the, if we know it, the makeup is in terms of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom?
Yeah, so we're at, it's a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom mix. We're at, predominantly 1 bedroom. We have, and I'm not clear on the exact numbers that I want to disclose you. But I think we're at like 50% 1 bedrooms, 25% studios, and 25% 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath.
Thank you.
She want real numbers now. 23 studios, 72 1 bedrooms, 33 2 bedrooms.
Thank
The cheap.
My memory's not that good. I didn't want to quote.
Mike, so what is the typical, like, let's just say that the speed reduction move is not approved, traffic signal light is not approved. They're in a negative declaration like this as they're not called an imperative, but we see them as critical to the mitigation that we're approving. So how do we navigate the timing of these things and, the likely impact that the project will have if they're not done? There's a line in here that says there's no significant change in the intersections, but we know that there's enough of a change in the intersection to make one of them really unpleasant without the signal timing change. So is there any way to think this through with some kind of toll gates that if they're approved, then something goes differently, or if they're not, something changes?
At this point, we can't know whether those things will be approved, the signal change or the speed limit. So you need to make the seeker determination, assuming they won't happen, because we don't have any guarantee that they will. So I think that's the way our traffic engineer reviewed it, was that those were they might be good things for DOT to do, but they were not necessary to finding no significant adverse impact. But it's the board's decision. But yeah, you can't assume they're gonna happen or stop the project if they don't, because we don't know that.
To add to that about the signal change, the DOT normally does not do signal light changes until they can do actual physical study of the intersection. Certainly on a speed limit reduction, there's numbers that they can use and put into formula. They get a lot of these, obviously, the region covers 3 or 4 counties, so they get a lot of these. You're at their mercy when they get to it, unless the village itself wants to commission its own study and then submit those findings to the DOT. But I will say, they seem to be very receptive of this one. My gut feeling is that it will move much quicker than most normally do, because they somewhat initiate the discussion. I'm sure they would maybe say I'm putting words in their mouth about this, but it was brought up and they were favorable to the concept of it. And I say that carefully on purpose. But as far as the timing of the streetlight change, we probably won't see that until they actually are built and open, and then they would look at that.
I'm sorry to belabor this, actually one more question. That's curious to me because it's already an F. So for the same reasons that it would improve when this project is added, it would improve without this project from an F.
I could go to the village board and ask them to, to my knowledge, there's been the only discussion about the signal change has occurred in this room, to my knowledge, and in the reports that we got. I don't believe the DOT has been approached, and I don't think it came up in the gateway meeting. I remember.
I would encourage the village board and the mayor.
And if the board would like me to, I'm happy to bring it back to the village board and ask them. So, thank you.
Bring out the renderings. Right. And we want to respond to the views to and from the building. So we, as Taylor pointed out quite clearly, we've made a real effort in the design and the siting of the building to have it stand off the street and create more of a public plaza, a public experience, destination for the public, to enjoy the retail at ground level. All right. In addition to that plaza, the creation of that plaza, we've also added landscape trees and such, fairly mature trees that help break up the facade and to provide privacy to and from. So the concerns, from the neighbors, we think can be addressed by the fact that we are providing landscape to stand between them and the building itself.
We have in other instances provided, I think there was a comment this tonight from the public about landscaping. It wasn't clear if they meant on their property or on the applicants. We have done off-site improvements in the past where effectively the applicant installs, but it becomes responsibility of that property owner, they're forward to maintain them. So we have done things like that in the past. So to the extent the board saw that as an appropriate condition, we're certainly, I don't think we would oppose inclusion of some type of additional or whatever installation there as far as the landscaping additional buffer. But the site is designed to be interoperable and communicative. We're trying to connect to the rail trail. It'll provide other pedestrian friendly, as was mentioned, I think during the public comment, the public sidewalk, and then of course connecting back to the rail trail. So we are trying to make, and it will include other commercial space and hopefully offer amenities and things that aren't there presently today. So there is some of that, but if the board saw fit, I think that's something we can include as an additional further mitigation. But otherwise, as Dave mentioned, we are incorporating it on our site, which we can control a landscaping plan.
So would be appropriate to encourage reaching out to your neighbors to developing this.
Well, I think we wanna include it in the determination, yeah. So, yeah, maybe we have a discussion with them ourselves before this is finalized.
Yeah, so as far as secret is concerned, it doesn't end your review whatsoever. It's just secret determination. Any approval resolution, you have a whole process beyond seeker to discuss specific conditions and things like that as well.
Yeah, landscaping would be part of the site, I think it makes sense.
And then there was just a question about the fill, and so is the ground level at the level of the road, or how many feet above or below?
Slightly above.
Yeah.
So, it's more or less zero at the road edge. And then it's sort of like a triangular wedge as you go back, but, where the house is now and the driveways are now, those are generally at the grade that it needs to be at. But if you go to the south parcel, for instance, where there's nothing there, it abruptly drops off, so there will be some fill. But it's gonna be up to the road level and sort of gently sloping away from the road very slightly. So it's no higher than the road.
And to the question of the public hearing, the total height of the building is the total height of the building. It's not different because you've elevated the grade in order to account for the flooding or thing that.
Correct.
There's no additional height of the building, it's the height.
Right, from
Incorporate
adjacent grade, yeah.
the level of the floor.
Correct.
It slopes down as you go towards the rail trail on the street.
Mhm.
And I thought that the issue with Bill was how it was gonna affect the adjacent wetland. In waiting for DEC to respond. And the Army Corps of Engineers that they have not shown up for the last 5 or 6 developments. They don't show up.
Yeah, they generally. They have, their time period to review permits and unless it's a major.
We're incorporating, we have a full
Yeah.
stormwater plan that's
Right.
implemented here. It's not that we're just, being treated on site, any generated by the site is being treated.
Where are you getting the bill, kind of bill is it?
General structural fill, it can consist of, it can't be clay, you wanna be able to build on it. So in certain areas where we have stormwater, we may include a more permeable fill so that we get a little movement through the underlying soils with our bioretention areas and our bioswales. Where we might have pervious pavement, we might have a more pervious fill beneath that as well. But generally structural fill that can support roads, buildings and so forth.
Exactly, I just had 2 points, so from a regulatory standpoint for building in the floodplain. The ground level has to be 2 feet above. The base flood level. So as was said. The area by the road is already above the base flood level. And as it goes backward, it does slope down, so that will be brought up. And just to also point out, they do have a stormwater pollution prevention plan that was reviewed by our engineer and signed off on, so, yeah.
So, well, maybe that should lead us into this letter that we got from Capital Environmental. Could you just explain what?
Yeah, so on Friday, actually on late Thursday. Or maybe it was even Friday morning, I got a call from Greg Fleischer at Capital. And he said. He was thinking about this project and how the new state wetlands law, which went into effect January 1, would apply. And I sort of said, yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and I brought up that I had pulled the mapper. He took, actually it was Thursday, he took it a step further. Excuse me, he reached out to Brian Drum from the DUC, who is the local DUC wetlands person, and this memo is basically a synopsis of their conversation. So, and I have provided that to the applicant as well. I provided it digitally right away and gave them a hard copy tonight. So he seems to indicate that he believes that they should ask the DEC whether delineation is necessary or not. And
Well, this seems.
oh no, she's saying they would review, I'm sorry, they would review the wetland delineation. Correct. Yeah. So. It does appear that he believes it should be submitted to the DUC for their delineation, but they also indicate that they're cognizant of the fact that this is a brand new law and this project's prior, so they will be aware of that when they do their delineation. So it seems to indicate they'll expedite.
I see. And does that involve them doing site visits or?
No, they probably, my guess, and the applicant can answer better, I'm guessing you already have a delineation that you can submit. So it would be a matter of the applicant submitting the delineation to the DEC and the DEC saying whether further action is necessary or.
This was an easier application because you already had an active stream. You knew there were potential DEC or Army Corps wetlands, and submitted by Ms. Bodendorf originally seeking the joint permit going through that process. So the project itself is designed considering potential impacts to either wetlands or buffers or otherwise. So we had to go through that process. We have our own environmental scientist, Mr. Nowicki, who prepared that report and did the delineation, but we will submit that as part of the jurisdictional.
They actually were. We did submit to them with the original application, but because at that time, it wasn't in their jurisdiction, they probably just said, oh, Army Corps is yours. Here you go, but now it's in there.
Yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's what changed, is prior to January 1, the DEC was only informational at that point. They didn't have jurisdiction and now they do. So.
Okay. Makes sense.
I would maybe recommend though that we might. I don't, you could hold off on the part 3 until you get those answers back, or you could. And I'll let Emily advise.
I would, just respectfully, that the permitting process that we'll have to
What I was about to say, actually.
Fair enough.
take Michael outside.
Fair enough.
No, I mean, I think that we did look at the wetlands as part of our review, at Capital, analyze the data that the applicant submitted, and so I don't see, whether DEC decides there's jurisdiction or not. I think needs to drive our secret process. If they do need permitting, they'll have to go through that process.
Yeah, okay. Well, were there any other questions from the board about the part three? I mean, we reviewed it last time, there were a few changes in here that you know, are under the items highlighted.
Well, there did the public comment that was submitted and it was along the same lines as the, I guess, for lack of a better word, live public comment about traffic being a substantial concern, and I would just to underscore at this point, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but this is a significant concern, and you're not the only ones that are actually feel that it's only being visited here. But I do think we just need to be cognizant of the fact that there is an impact.
Is there any language in the part three that you think should be changed or?
I've been struggling with this for the first saw this proposal. I don't have any.
Okay.
I don't have any great solutions.
Yeah, I think the cumulative effects of the existing, you know, approved projects and this project start to, you know, as we all know, as even though no single one of them impacts is significant, collectively, it's getting more significant. And I think that doesn't really have to do directly with this project, but I think like we have to continue to elevate the scrutiny. And at some point, it's getting too much. And I just don't know what that breakpoint looks like. Like if we could commission our own traffic study, I'd be interested in our own traffic consultant saying, what does the next 70 apartment building do to the intersections? What does the next 130 apartment building look at the intersections? Because it would be important to know the tipping point so that we don't just keep, I hate the expression, but we don't boil the frog, you know, like we before we know it.
Isn't the frog already kind of boiling up?
Well, I think the research and the diligence we're doing as a board is determined. If you think otherwise, you should be prepared to speak that up and vote against it, but I think we're doing the work to know that it's not boiling, but I'm not sure it is.
I mean, just for the purpose of the evaluation, we're evaluating whether there's potentially significant adverse environmental impact. We certainly recognize that the project has impacts, but we're mitigating them to the extent we can on our application. So we did have the village's consultant review the memorandum and identify that project specific, this would not have any significant adverse environmental impacts. And we did adjust this plan many times to try and add other mechanisms, understanding the concerns you had, that DOT controls are DOT and not village specific or applicant specific. So we have tried to find a number of ways, a shared driveway, traffic calming on the street, all the other
I got it.
means, yeah.
What I'm doing is acknowledging my
There could be
planning board.
confusion, right?
What I'm doing is acknowledging my fellow planning board's concern, because it's mine too. Which is that, you know, we're doing these incrementally one at a time, there's no master plan that incorporates what all this could be eventually. And at some point, we might either want to, you know, suggest a moratorium until we can figure out something that's a more formal integrated plan, or just figure out what our tipping point is to say we're not gonna allow it anymore, because there's nothing worse than an F at the next intersection, you know? So I think that's our responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would also just like to remind the board that this is not like a final approval.
It's just making a comment
Yeah,
that I think is important to put out there.
you know, we do have the opportunity to talk about special conditions and, you know, other creative ways we could help improve the situation. But
I totally appreciate that, and
Yeah.
definitely, I lived on Sugartown. have property on 32 just north of town, like I completely understand that this is not a problem that is being created by this project. It's a cumulative effect and it's been a long-standing issue. It's a thorny issue. I'm sure Richard's point. I don't know Richard's point.
Yeah. Well, if there aren't any other questions, or comments on the part 3 here, I think I'm ready to vote on a negative declaration. We're not missing anything, right? We are prepared to vote on that tonight. We don't need to wait on.
Then should they adopt the part 3 first separately, or just do it as all one?
You can do it all as one,
Okay.
to adopt it and authorize the chair to sign on part 3.
Okay. So,
And just to be clear, you said structural fill, which is soil and dirt, not engineered fill. Correct?
Correct, it's fill that compacts adequately.
okay, well, could I get a motion to adopt the EAF part 3 and authorize me to sign it?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Before I vote, it's where the resolution is as amended, right?
As in, yes.
Aye.
Okay. And so the only other remaining things are, I guess you have a ZBA. Here before the ZBA at their next meeting, and we still have to discuss the special use permits, and just we're going to provide an updated narrative for those. And yeah, by the next meeting, we should have our comments back from the Ulster County Planning Board as well, so.
The ZBA is holding their public hearing on the 11th, so they won't be considering a decision until their April,
No.
just so you know. But that shouldn't necessarily hold up further review. You couldn't do an approval until they do a decision, but I'm guessing this is gonna be several meetings more yet at this point, so.
Yeah, we'd want to meet with you to go over the special fund in particular and those details. And certainly, continue to review the project, so.
And the other item that was lingering was the questions about the loading areas that just brought up in the last meeting.
If you have a updated plan, which has not been officially submitted, but I'll just show it to you here. So what we did was we moved the loading zones out of the travel lanes so that it doesn't interfere with internal circulation. So up here, we just moved it into the planting area. We are proposing pervious pavement on those loading zones. And in the back, we just moved it outside of the travel lane so that sort of just so there, traffic flow can be maintained and there's no impedance.
Did you want to ask them to show any type of landscaping offsite for the buffer end?
I mean, I think that's a good idea, but
Yeah,
we probably should discuss with,
are you interested, if I may ask that directly?
Yeah.
Are you interested in offsite improvement to that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Then yes.
Like screening or
I would say that we have 3 trees on the front of the road, that are not evergreens, but if you put an evergreen in between, I think there would be enough of a buffer for us. Because we are big outdoors people, that's why we moved here. We use rail trail, we use the streets, we use local businesses. we walk everywhere. So with the garden up in front, you probably see fencing, so I'm usually out there during the day. So something that would help us, because as you can see, everything's kind of like this way facing towards us, so. It would be a big help.
Okay.
As much as we should.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. So we'll incorporate that into the submission. Great.
Thank you.
I think that's all for tonight.
Do we want them to come back on the eighteenth or the first meeting in April?
Well, I think we just extended the hearing to the 18th.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily.
But
Sam,
wait,
you-
what does that mean if they can't, can we close the public hearing, we close the zoning board?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll have the county respond.
Do have the county's comments back on that.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
But the next applicant is online because he had some, we'll certainly do it instead.
Yeah. Next we have PD 2504, 8183 North Chestnut Street. Okay. I see we got some updated
Yeah, and I didn't
site plan.
print out a page for everybody, but here's 2 additional copies. If you guys, I gave you one, Zach,
Yep.
but if people want to share these 2, they're also online, so they're here if you want them.
Well, maybe to start, could you just walk us through the site plan that you drew and any changes that, you know, anything new that we haven't seen?
Sure. So we made a more precise diagram of what the seating in the front is going to look like. There was that issue that was resolved about the sidewalk. And people do use that as a cut through anyway. So we set back where the seating is going to be to allow for about 12 feet of space for
So
people to
there
walk.
will
front
be
of
a
it.
sidewalk, you're saying, because the planters right now are right up against the curb. You're gonna remove
Right,
the
so-
planters.
Yeah, so if
Okay.
you look at it, we're moving those planters to the side of the building. And using that as the divider for the seating that's going to be where the drive-through used to be. And then the side facing 32, there's a few planters there already, like there's like brick planters with trees in them already. And we're gonna build benches that also can act as planters, and like short privacy screens to kind of enclose the space.
Rachel, just to clarify, the sidewalk is on the previous site plan as a paper sidewalk. It's agreed, the previous planning board decision requires the sidewalk when and if a sidewalk to the property to the north is constructed to continue it. But at the moment, so there's a placeholder, but it's not, it's only going to be constructed if the property to the north constructs the sidewalk.
Is the property to the north, isn't that being developed?
There was an application and there's been no action on it for what I'm told, well over a year.
Oh, so it says it expired, so if they even wanted to build, you're talking about Main Street Auto?
I just, way predates me, so I don't know the answers, but I know I don't believe they finished their approval.
That was really my question, was I thought there was a pending application, but if that comes back, then how do you, then that triggers a requirement.
Then the building inspector would notify this property that it must construct sidewalk. It's on their site plan, And that agreement that was on there on the, you can't read it here, but on the original, what it said is when and if a sidewalk is built to the north.
Okay.
So the owner of the property has agreed to build that sidewalk when there is somewhere for it to go. But for the moment, because it ends at the Salvation Army. Now, that was the previous planning board's decision. That doesn't mean that this board can't do something different. I'll just leave it at that.
Even though no sidewalk, I mean. You end up walking through the parking lot.
It says in the, where's the ice cream cone?
Oh, everybody loves that ice cream cone.
The DRB wants to keep it.
Yes.
Yes, you also have from the design review board a letter.
Retaining the ice cream cone.
Yes, okay, so we might as well go through this. So. John,
If this paper document you handed out, is that in? Is.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, where is it?
I will tell you the. If you bring up the files and work backwards, you will find these.
Jamie.
Right.
Yeah.
Alright, now once you're in the file list, Mike, where is it?
You know,
The sidewalk. It was uploaded on,
easily have the sidewalk in front of the community yard, when you have the sidewalk.
219, it's under site plan, it's called Shorty's.outdoor. It's called signage detail, it's the next 4 documents. So if you go to the history.
Okay.
And work backwards. It is the one that is, because they're in reverse date order, so it's the one labeled.
Okay, back up. So now I'm in history.
Yep.
The first thing I see are project meeting agendas.
Yep, keep scrolling down,
Okay.
you may have to expand the list. And it's one labeled site plan that was uploaded on February 19th.
All right.
It's called Shorty's.outdoor.
Okay.
And then the next 3 files are the ones I printed for you.
Thank you.
Yep. So with each file, there's a little header above it that tells you the section of the application that it's in. So you'll see signage detail, site plan. I can also tell the board a shortcut at a different time of how to get to all the site plan files, but.
Yeah,
So third, that's the do parking confirmation. Which you should know where we're going.
So the parking table. The parking requirement is fulfilled throughout the entire site plan. Right, it's not that the parking is it's not designated for the most adjacent ones for the.
No, it's a total number of spaces, and I did notice that the key is still from the previous, when this was the B1 district, it's now the NBR. But Alex did verify that the total number of spaces that exist today is still adequate for the, because there's no proposed use change, they're adding the outdoor seating to, actually, they're modifying the outdoor seating.
Yeah.
So he verified that the total number of spaces is still adequate. It's actually more than is needed.
It looks like it's two more, and I'm just confirming.
Well, that's, bear in mind, Rich, that table is from the old zoning code. I didn't notice that, I'm gonna have to ask the applicant to update that.
Oh, we can ask them.
Yeah, that was still a carryover from the B1,
Okay,
from the original approval.
alright, so we're gonna ask them to update the parking table.
Yeah, but just the language in there will have to be updated to a new breakdown.
And there's no, if I'm correct, that's a physical therapy office, the other, so there, and there should be an indication of, handicap parking and its location and, I mean, in any business. but
There's two spaces and that's all that's required for that site.
And those spaces aren't next to the physical therapy office, though, those look like they're the handicapped office.
Yeah, I mean, if this board wanted to move one of those over there, they could, but we can only look at the total site. So,
Well, for the consideration of that, it might make sense to request that. Have one handicap spot be in service to the current business at least. But, all right, we'll update the table and, my recommendation to the applicant would be to move one of the handicap spots to, serve more directly the other office.
back when the board is done, I have one question about the site plan when you're finished.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just had some questions about the this privacy screen, is that? Are they going to look like this mock-up you created, or, you know, tall wooden fences essentially?
Yes, that's the idea.
4.5 feet.
Okay, they say 4.5 feet and colored black, that. I mean, is that? Okay with everyone? It might be very, I don't know, very visible or,
So those right up against the curb.
no,
No.
there would be people walking.
They're shown on the site.
Oh,
I think it's a little like unattractive, Zach, but I don't have a better suggestion. And I'm interested in the design review board didn't seem to think it was offensive to them.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that the design review board didn't mention those.
I think it's gonna be pretty stark having black fencing along the streets there, so.
And remind me, where the actual building itself is being repainted, it's not gonna be battleship gray like it is now.
No, it's gonna be red.
Okay, so the building will be red.
There will also be breaks in the fences for trees and plants, so it's not going to be one solid fence in front of the building.
Wood, I think it's in spots, yeah.
And did I hear the fence is 4.5 feet?
That's what it says.
Yeah, it's on the plan.
And that applies to the village fence ordinance? You can have a 4.5 foot fence on the front yard setback? Normally you can't do that.
This actually is not in setback because the NBR district, the setback is just the amount of the sidewalk. And then it has a 0 setback, you just have to make accommodations for pedestrians, so.
So let me rephrase it. You can have a 4.5 foot fence in your front yard.
That's what I'm trying to say, this is not the front yard, because the front yard is the setback. Once you're beyond the setback, people may call it the front yard, but it's not the front yard from a zoning standpoint. The front yard means the front setback. Yeah. The board can certainly,
Oh, what you will, 4.5 foot fence in the front of that building.
it's certainly the board's purview to make comments on that, but it needs some statute.
Under the current fence ordinance, what's the tallest fence you can have in front of your house?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Well, let's make it that high.
I think it's 4 feet.
I doubt.
When I'm,
Yeah.
I mean, have you considered just using, like low wooden planters and letting the landscaping sort of provide privacy for the tables?
It's a mix of the two. So we're not asking for a fence that is blocking people's, you know, standing height. We want a little privacy for people as they're seated in the corner. So if you're telling me 4 feet is acceptable, I think that would probably work for us as well. But we wanted to do a mix of the two. So it's not one solid block. It's like corners where we have the table spaced out. There's going to be those, and there's also going to be greenery around all of it as well.
I for one would still like to know what the current ordinance is regarding fencing in front of you.
Yeah, I think we need to do a little more research into that.
It's 4 feet in residential districts, 8 feet in non-residential.
oh. I know it's for improving.
So like Salvation Army is surrounded by a big tall fence.
I mean,
It's clear, it's chain link, so it's not.
But it's chain link.
That predates zoning, but I believe, and I'm talking off the top of my head, I believe you're not allowed to use chain link in the fence.
yeah.
Hope not. Not the look we're going for.
But the board certainly has the right to make it whatever height they feel is appropriate.
Can I harp on what the site, the drawings don't include the ice cream cone, and the design review board says they would recommend including the ice cream cone. And I suspect that this would be a fairly substantial discussion for New Paltz. So can you just comment on the plans for the ice cream cone?
We are looking at ways to serve ice cream and make it make sense. We're trying to incorporate the historical elements from the building into the design, like the signage in the front. And we would like to keep the ice cream cone. We also want it to be a business that makes sense. So, you know, I'm talking to people about soft serve machines that are wildly expensive because there's an ice cream cone on the building. But we're making it work. Yeah, we would like to keep the ice cream cone too. I don't want it to be our first impression with the town is taking down the ice cream cone. So.
Thank you.
Well, I can appreciate everyone's thinking of it. The design review board, however, does say that it could be part of the interior design.
Right.
It doesn't have to remain outside the building. If it's not outside the building, you probably don't have to spend a lot of money on ice cream machines.
So do we wanna conclude with a recommendation on the fence? It's currently proposed at 4.5 feet in black. I understand that the applicant is interested in just obscuring like someone sitting down at the tables eating, you don't want people walking by them staring over at their food. And you know, that's probably requires 4 feet, I would imagine, to have that feel that you're looking for. I do think the idea that it's segmented and symmetrical and that it's like 2 corners and then two, you see the third page. it's 5 foot segments. You know, so it's only this much black fence, you know, I think if you put it in context, it's this much black fence and then a planter, or this much black fence and then a planter. So I mean, there's a lot of things that are improving this site to make it quite cute. I think I can live with a 4 foot segmented fencing. Unless everybody really thought.
That would work for me.
I'm fine with that as well.
When you go to the order, I'll go along.
And we just would want,
It wasn't what?
we wanna make sure that the resolution includes, the idea that you're gonna maintain the planting and, you know, replace dead greenery and all that, so that the planting is always a part of the appearance of the front of the building. Cause I think it makes it'll make a big difference.
Yeah, of course.
Um.
Zach, the point that I had, Luke, I noticed that you're proposing a change to the curbing. Just a word of warning, if you wanna make that change, we're gonna need to involve the DOT, because if you're not making any changes to the access, then it's still it's a commercial use and remaining a commercial use. But if you want to make any changes to the curbing, and I see you have it changed to go from the way it's drawn to an angle piece, just a word of warning, then we would have to include the DOT in that approval process, and you guys would have to apply to the DOT for that change.
I think that that's the language that was approved in the old site plan.
Oh, the curve, the angle there?
Yeah, so all of that is from the site plan. We got the file from the person that created it and we didn't change it. So that's all, everything that has to do with that is already approved.
Okay, so if that's approved and built that way, and I haven't checked it, you should take that off this. You should take the language off of new curbing and just show the what it currently exists as opposed to what was there previously.
Okay, I didn't know how you wanted me to
Yeah, for
do
the
that.
board,
If you
I'll
wanted, yeah, okay.
Okay,
Well, if it's, I mean, if they have to, is it new, like it hasn't been built that way
I
yet?
don't know the answer. When I saw new here, I was assuming they were proposing it with this site plan.
Right,
So Alex or myself will have to go view how it is on site,
yeah,
and we'll have to look at the previous approval.
right.
And,
But this is gonna become a new approval, so we want it to show
right,
what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Maybe it should say approved previously or something like that.
correct,
Okay.
yeah, it should show what was approved with the last approval, and, yeah, so we'll verify that. Luke took the existing approved plan and basically copied it over, so some of the language, like the parking table, and that language need to come off and be corrected, so.
Okay.
Okay. And so I see here it's mentioned that you need to seek a special use permit for the outdoor cafe seating. So as part of that, we usually require the applicants to go through and answer a few questions about the use and you know, outdoor cafe has a couple specific questions, but we can send you the format for that narrative.
They're actually, Luke, they're in the Munich lab, but I think you just answered them as yes or no, so if you could go back into the Munich lab in the site plan proposal, maybe it was, and just fill out those questions.
I'll take a look at it.
For the special permit required section. There's the 5 questions are listed in there, but you simply said yes or no. So you just need to expand on why it's a yes or no.
And I forget, are there any like sort of time restrictions or other types of restrictions that go along with this special use?
There are in the code.
Okay, so I just wanna make sure that the applicant has those and is aware of those.
Yeah, there's, besides the 4 general criteria, there's a special section for outdoor cafe.
Yeah, I think I said that to you, didn't I?
Yeah, I have that, Mike. Yeah, nothing is conflicting with our plans with it.
Okay. And so we determined that the DOT won't need to review any of it. Is that true? No work is happening in the DOT?
Yeah, as long as there's no change, it's a commercial driveway that's remaining a commercial driveway.
You know, Zach, I didn't write it here, but we can do the seeker type 2 classification. I thought we had done that, but I.
No, we have not, yeah.
Okay,
And it also needs referral to Ulster County Plan Board, but if we want those changes on the site plan. But you could do a referral tonight. Pending those changes, because this won't get on their agenda until April. So he'll have a week or 2 to make those corrections on the site plan.
okay. So, well, first, can I get a motion to classify this as seeker type 2 action?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. And could I get a motion to refer this to the Ulster County Planning Board? With the changes that were discussed.
So moved.
And second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anything else?
You could set it for public hearing, but you probably wouldn't wanna have that before, it's gonna be on the county planning board on. Whatever the first Wednesday in April is.
So that's gonna be after our meeting in April.
Yeah, so. Unfortunately, the way the calendar falls, it's not good. Yeah, April 2nd, so. Well, you could have your public hearing on the 1st and. Then do your decision on the 15th, because you'll have the county's comments by then.
Yeah, let's set the public hearing for April 1st, so can I get a motion to schedule the public hearing for our April 1st meeting?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. So I think that is all for tonight.
Well, you and I can go through the site plan and. I'll get you the correct information for the things that have to change.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
So. Let's see. No. Next, PB 2502 and 2503. Did you receive the amended site plan from P. Clegel?
We have not. I spoke with him on Friday. I went through everything with him. What I would say is you should just make it a condition of the decision and that we don't sign the site plan until it's received.
That's how the decisions are written.
Okay. And so he already,
He knows what needs to be done and he's working on it, but he didn't get it through yet.
okay,
Hi, I'm Hector Rodriguez. I'm here on behalf of Keith. I am also on the HDFC. He can't be here tonight. He's traveling. So, I think that we've sort of gone over everything with Michael, waiting on candidly Andy Will and Ken's overworked. So we're waiting on those finalized drawings.
okay, understood. So these are two separate decisions, right? We're gonna need to do two votes here.
Yeah, but it's easier to have the one for, permanent homes stay with it.
Yeah.
Rather than mix them.
Sure. Okay. So. This is the right. Which is great, by the way, that's moving really well.
Emily, I'm sorry, I didn't catch, there's one change that should be made in the 2502
Okay.
in the specific conditions.
Mhm.
It says plant solar array and the relocated retaining wall. The retaining wall is actually on the other property. So I don't think that this, the one for the home should mention the retaining wall.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess what I meant was to take the retaining wall off of the.
Oh, then that's fine. Then we'll leave it alone. I understand.
But you're right, it doesn't need to show the retaining wall, so if you wanna cross that out.
Okay. So we'll just cross out that and the relocated retaining wall.
Yeah. Okay. So can I get a motion? To approve PB 2502 1 Hasbrook Place. Second, and could we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure, Rachel,
Aye.
Vicky,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Terry. Zach,
Aye,
and that's as amended, right?
as amended. And then moving on to 54, 2114, wait, no, 2503, sorry. 54 South Manheim. This one, is the conditions. One, all the submittals, permits, and conditions of the previous approval for application PB 21-14 are incorporated herein by reference and remain in full force. 2, the only change to the previous approval is the addition of the retaining wall as shown on the plans referenced above. And 3, this resolution of approval is conditioned upon the receipt of a final site plan showing the relocated retaining wall on a site plan for the subject parcel. Plan shall be subject to acceptance by the Director of Planning and Zoning and code enforcement before they will be signed by planning board chair. No amendments needed. So can I get a motion approving PB 2503 with the given specific conditions? So
Second.
all in favor? Could we do another roll call, please?
Rachel, Vicky,
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
Terry.
Aye.
Zach.
Aye.
Thank you.
We're welcome. Thank you. And so the motion to adjourn the meeting. Second.
Aye.
So aye, all there.
And you can see Elizabeth is gonna be the one.